Good morning and welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Demakis with Alliance Specialties in Laser Sales, where we are mold makers that don't build molds. We do all the things that you guys don't want to do. The laser welding, laser engraving, polishing, preventative mold maintenance, repairs, hot runner systems, you name it. We also have a full line of laser welding and laser engraving equipment made here in the United States to help you with whatever mold repair needs you have, or even production welding and things of that sort. So we are here to help you find the best success possible. It's exciting for us because at the end of this month, we have the PT Expo coming up at the Donald E. Stevenson Convention Center. I know it's probably during spring break, but that's okay. It just means that you can make it. We have some new technology that we're going to be showcasing there with our partners from Universal Robots. So we're really excited about you guys seeing what we're going to have there, and just seeing what everybody's going to bring to the table as far as new technology, new advancements, and things like that. So that's what's coming up in our world. If you're watching online, do me a favor and say hello. Put your name in the chat, put your company in the chat so that we can give you a shout out and just say hi. My brother is watching. See, he's following directions. He's watching on Facebook and he says, I'm here watching today. Awesome. So if you're there, put your name in there. We'd love to talk about you and your business. And if you have any questions, so we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today, everything from automation and talent acquisition and everything like that. And if there's a comment or a question or something that you would like to talk about specifically, please put it in the chat so that we can engage with you and actually talk about the things that you want to talk about, because really, that's why we do this, to share those manufacturing stories, to help the industry grow as a whole and get better together. So if you don't share with us, we can't share with you. And then there's really no point in doing this other than it's kind of fun for me once a week. But we've got quite a few people watching already. I can see them. So go ahead, put stuff in the chat. And I'm going to introduce our guest today. So this is a guy that I haven't met in person yet. This is actually the first time that we're talking, unless he corrects me later, and then I'm embarrassed. But so today we have Richard Savage on, who has the coolest name in manufacturing, I'm just going to say out loud. And Richard is part of Savage Automation, and he's the owner of Savage Automation. He's got 15 years of injection molding experience working on all types of molds, molding machines, molding automation. He founded Savage Automation in 2017 to bring robust design and cutting-edge technology to end-to-arm tooling while simplifying its installation and operation. That's a lot of stuff to do, and it's pretty awesome. So I'm excited to talk to him. So I'm going to bring Richard in, and he can tell you a little bit more about himself as well. So Richard, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Tony. Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's a beautiful, almost 50 degrees in Illinois. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and what could be better than that?
Man, that's fantastic. We're about 80 here in Mexico right now, so it's a little too hot.
Yeah. What are you doing in Mexico?
So we're actually down here doing an installation of one of our automation machines. It's a packaging machine that takes some reagent test tubes for diagnostic tests like COVID-19 tests or flu tests, and it takes them from the mass bulk packaging trays and puts them into the individual paperboard that they get shipped to hospitals and doctors in.
Did you freeze or did you finish?
I finished. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a pause there. Vanessa was looking at me too. So, so that's awesome. So, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, other than what I just mentioned, and what Savage Automation is, and then we can dive into some good stuff.
Yeah, no problem. So my background is in injection molding. I started working for Orbit Irrigation when I was 18, right out of high school. And I didn't really mean to get into molding. I was trying to be a machinist, but it was an open position. They had a machine shop. And so I really fell in love with it. I started as a mold setter, was taught how to be a process technician, and mostly the wrong ways. but I went from there to multiple other mold companies in Utah, and really came to love all the different aspects, from being on the floor processing to in the shop taking care of the molds, all the way to designing and working with our mold builders to build new molds for our new products. And during that time, I really struggled with the automation that we had. In medical facilities, we had a lot of automation, and we had brand new robots on most of our presses. But the real failure was where the robot met the end of arm tool. And I spent a lot of my time as a technician answering alarms on machines where the robot either had all the parts, but the sensors didn't, or it kept missing parts. Just simple things where the automation wasn't doing its job of doing the same thing over and over again. And so in 2017, I started Savage Automation to build some better end of arm tooling, and really focus on the design of that to make sure that it was going to do the same thing over and over again, that it wouldn't alarm out, that we had sensors placed in the right spot to see the part every time, so that we weren't wasting technicians' time and really replacing operators with technicians in automation. That it didn't make sense to do that.
No, because that's the whole point of automation, right? I mean, if you can't have that repeatability of a robot, then what's the point? So if you're having to keep going back and recycle that, or fix the end of arm tooling, or like you said, it's alarming out, now you got issues. You invested all this money, all this technology, and it's just not doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly.
So when you looked at it, right, what was that kick point for you to say, this has to be able to be done better?
So, with my background in SolidWorks and working on mold design and all these things, I thought of all the cool things we do in a mold build. All of the mechanical actuation, all of the things that we design in to make that mold run forever. And I kind of ported some of that over to the end of arm side. Traditionally, a lot of the end of arms I saw were pieces of 80-20 bolted together with suction cups attached or grippers attached, and not a lot of fine tuning done. Either that or just a laser cut plate with the same thing, suction cups and grippers. And so I started looking into, what technologies do we have that are better now than when we first started building these plates. And I really settled in on 3D printing. There's some amazing 3D printing technology out there now that takes away a lot of the design limitations you have when you're building with aluminum. And so we use the HP 3D printing technology as our main manufacturing method.
Okay.
So we design with air and vacuum channels printed internally to the body of the end of arm. If we've got an angle to match, I've actually got a little example here that I brought with me. So this is for a local custom molder in Utah. So this part they have has kind of a concave surface, and normally you could come at that straight with a suction cup, but sometimes you're going to miss it. Sometimes it's not going to totally seal, and that results in kind of what I was always frustrated with, an inconsistent process. So with 3D printing, we're able to print on an angle exactly how we want to mount our suction cups. And then this part sits in here and it matches the contour exactly. It's going to grip it every time. It's going to be reliable and continue to run without technician interference cycle after cycle.
So that's an awesome application, because you're saying, here's the real world problem, right? Here's the proper application for it. This is where technology and problem solving meet. It's like there's that cartoon Robots from when my kid was little, and all they kept saying was find a need, fill a need. Like, how do you know it's a good project? How do you know that it's a good solution or a good invention? It's find a need, fill a need. And so for this one, right, you're using the idea and the technology of 3D printing to say, how do we do something that's not typically done?
Yeah, exactly. And really, this is like an ideal use case for 3D printing. 3D printing is not obviously at the level of mass manufacturing yet. That's why
Right.
we still all have jobs in injection molding.
Right.
Um, but for fixtures, single, one-off custom parts, 3D printing is a fantastic solution when you're just making one or two.
Yep. We do that all the time. So when we're making our laser welding machines, we just rebuilt the entire head, and we 3D printed so many of the parts in there because now we can actually start playing with it in an actual space. We don't need 100 of them or 1,000 of them or 1,000,000 of them. We need two. And
Right.
so we can just build that, have it, play with it, make adjustments, and move on from there. Lindsay Diamond is joining us on LinkedIn, and she says hello. She loves my shirt. We made these shirts right before Amerimold the last Amerimold. They are in honor of the 13 fallen service members from Afghanistan. And yeah, it's not because all the other people who passed away don't matter. This was a tribute to everybody. So that's what this 13 is. It's not just my lucky number. But yeah, hi Lindsay. Good morning. So you've got the background in mold making, and I think one of the things to me that's interesting is how does automation play a part in the mold maker's life? Because a lot of that is, it's a person, right? You need the idea, you need the CAD, you need the ability to program the system. So where does automation come in that aspect?
Well, I mean, I like to look back and a lot of things that we call automation. Um, Now we think of robots, we think of all these things, modern automation. But if you look at kind of the transition that mold makers had of going from hand drawn um, blueprints and drawings to CAD, CAM, that was a huge step in automation.
Right.
Going from manual machining to CNC machining, those are a big part of the mold maker's life now, and we can't imagine going backwards from that. We couldn't
No.
produce what we do now as far as molds without our CNC machines and our CAM software. And I think going forward, we're going to find more and more applications where we are developing things that mold makers need to do their job to get to our tighter tolerance parts, to our smaller parts. Micro molding is pushing the limits of what we thought was possible in molding, and we're going to need better tools to allow our mold makers to continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kate Pellet just joined us. She was on the show last week. Hi, Kate. Good morning. Let us know if you have any questions, too. Don't just sit there silent and quiet. That's boring. Nobody likes that. So when we were talking a little bit before we came on about the State of the Union address yesterday, and this is not a thing to get political, so depending on what side of the aisle you're on, that's not what we're going to talk about. But there were some topics brought up in the State of the Union that had to do with manufacturing and building in America and what that looks like. And one of those things was jobs, right? And one of the fears that people have when they hear automation is the idea of, the robots taking over and taking people's jobs, and you just want to eliminate workers. That's why you're bringing in automation. And that's not necessarily the case.
No, not at all. And I really love to use an analogy to the washing machine.
Okay.
Right? Everybody's got a washing machine in their house, almost everybody in the US. And this is a labor saving machine, and it's automation. It's pretty simple automation, but it's something that we've automated. And I really don't hear a lot of people saying we need to get rid of the washing machine. It took all the laundry jobs and nobody has any work anymore. The washing machine took a menial task that really wasn't fun. It wasn't engaging. It just took up our time. And now we have a machine that does it.
Right.
The same thing applies in manufacturing. As we add robots, we're not doing that to get rid of people. Most of the time, we are then training all of the operators that did this certain task to now run the machine and operate it. How do they use the robot? And these same people that did this task over and over come back to us and they're like, hey, can you automate this one too? I hate
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
People aren't made for these. That's not a person perfect job. It causes repetitive stress injuries, eye strain, all of these things. We've just done this previously because it's the only way there was to do it.
Right. Right. Before we had technology, that's just what you had to do. I like to look at it as, the robot or the automation is replacing the dangerous jobs that you don't necessarily want somebody to be doing. Things where people could get hurt, reaching your arm into something where it doesn't belong, lifting things that are probably too heavy to be lifting, repetitive welding, things like that, right? And if you can take a robot or an automated system and do those dangerous things, then you take the employee who used to be doing those things and you teach them a higher skilled craft, like programming the robot and thinking outside the box and coming up with new applications. You're not getting rid of the job. You're just advancing it. You're evolving the position to be able to do something else.
Exactly. And it allows our intelligent human brains to be freed up and used towards things that they're meant for. Again, we talked about mold makers who used to run manual mills, manual lathes, and build their molds. Now they're programming and running the CNC machine.
Right.
We didn't get rid of jobs, but now we can produce more complex, more detailed things because we got better tools.
Right. And we've got a couple different versions of our robotic welding systems. One of them is on the end of a KUKA robot, which I'm sure you're very familiar with. It's a larger, more robust system. It's like 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt systems. You don't want somebody holding that and trying to weld that. That's dangerous.
Right.
The only other way to do that is through TIG welding or something like that, and that causes more strain on the parts. It causes discoloration. There's more wear. There's more processes that have to happen, so the business is less profitable. If the business is less profitable, there's other issues that come along with that when it comes to employees. So again, taking this problem and saying, how do I fix it with technology, and then I'm able to take care of my employees, is a good way to do that. I think some people have a disconnection also, thinking like automation is too complicated, right? My facility can't do this, or I can't learn this. I didn't go to college. What's your answer to those kinds of things?
Well, you know what? I love that you mentioned college. I wouldn't say I'm anti-college, but I am a technical college evangelist. Really, I feel like a lot of people feel trapped, especially on the way to careers that seem complex, like automation or CAD designer. All of those things, they've got so much riding on them. There's so many details, and I've met so many people who feel like, well, I could never get into that kind of a job because I can't go to school. I don't have the money for college. My parents can't afford to help me with the cost of college. And our local community college in Utah, it's like $3,500 for their automation and robotics course. Mm-hmm. And state will pay most of that for you if you will follow through and get a job in that field afterwards. They'll pay almost all of that money for you. And that course is fantastic. Yeah. I go in there every couple of weeks and I see industry leaders in our area picking kids right out of that course to go work in the field.
And that's the whole purpose of going to college, right? Like, nobody goes to college to not be able to find a job. And it's not a 4-year education. And I think with a lot of manufacturing jobs, the resume, or where you went to school or this or that or the other thing, it's not important. That's the only way I can say it, right? What I look for when I'm hiring people is, can you do the job? Are you curious about how you're going to do work? Do you want to continue to learn? Do you want to find ways to make us better? Who are you as a person? Like, I learned a lot of that stuff from Westminster Tool and how they do their hiring and what they look for in people. And they were spot on. All that other stuff you can train. You can train somebody how to be a robotics automation expert. with a little bit of schooling.
Yeah, I used to, when I was a molding manager, I used to look for, I called it the light of curiosity.
Yeah.
I had somebody who knew absolutely nothing about the field, but they were asking questions and curious as we did the walkthrough around the machines and asking about things. Those are the type of people I really wanted to hire because they were going to learn it. And as a
Right.
manufacturer, do you really want somebody who spent a lot of time studying generals and comes in with no specific knowledge of the field? Or do you want somebody who maybe doesn't have as broad a general knowledge of everything, but really says, hey, I just took a PLC class. I know PLCs.
Yeah.
If you can teach me a little bit about how your company uses them, that person is already ready to jump and become a contributing member of the company rather than spending a couple of years just figuring out what the industry is.
Yeah, I went to Western Illinois University. It's a fine school, good old Macomb. I went there for 4 years, but very few of the classes I took had any application on my life today. Like I took oceanography. I don't think I did very well in it, but I took oceanography. I was never going to be an oceanographer. I just needed to fill time and credits, and I thought, well, that sounds kind of cool. I mean, I like fish. That's fun. I took rural geography for one day. It was an honors class, and this is how much I should not have been in the honors class. I took rural geography, and my thought when I signed up for the class was, I like the city. That's kind of cool. And so the first day in class, I'm sitting around the table, and luckily I wasn't first, and there were like 20 kids in there. And the teacher says, we're going to start the class. We're going to go around the table and everybody say what you like about the rural life. And I was like, all right, this will be good. And so I'm thinking about answers, and the kids start going by and they're like, the outdoors, farming, the beauty of the cornfields. And I'm going, what? I don't think they know what rural is. And it kept going around the table. And it was more and more farming stuff because now I know that's what rural means. And when it got to me, I was like, boring. And that was my last day in the class. I dropped that class. My point is, I should have never been in that class. I should have been taking classes that only fit to my passion and the things that I had an interest in. Marketing, design, business, things like that are actually applicable. So, now if kids can go to a local community college and pick and choose those classes that they want that are actually going to be towards the industry that they're looking to get involved in, they can start a job out of high school and try things and get involved and do I like this? Do I not like that? Or they can go waste 4 years of their life in oceanography and rural geography. I mean, I did get my wife out of college. I took art history. The only thing I got out of art history was my wife. And that's where I'm at.
Worth it, all right?
It was totally worth it. Yeah.
And Tony, that's not to say that curiosity is bad, that we shouldn't, just because you're interested in manufacturing doesn't mean you might not like to learn about oceanography. But
I don't need to spend that much money. I can watch the Discovery Channel.
Exactly. That's exactly it. When you're paying all this money to learn something it's an ROI question to me.
Right.
It's an ROI question. How long is it going to take me to pay off this investment, and which pieces of that investment are valuable? The ROI is so much faster on a tech school.
Yes, because those are the positions that right now people can't fill. I know that's one of the things that we were talking about is like, what do you do with the talent gap? How do you navigate this as a manufacturer, as an employer, and as a business that's trying to figure things out?
Right. And it's funny because this talent gap that we're seeing all over the country, this talent gap has been around since before the pandemic in specifically the molding field. I've been talking to mold builders, molders for years. The question is always, how are you guys finding people?
Yep.
The answer is we're not. We're not finding people. Some shops are bringing in apprentices to create their own apprenticeship programs, but for the most part, shops just aren't finding people.
Right.
And a lot of them are turning to automation when they can't find anybody. So we have a local shop in Utah. The one that end of arm I showed at the beginning is for this custom molder in Utah. And he's a small shop. He's got 8 or 9 presses and probably 5 employees.
Okay.
And his complaints are always that he loves his employees. He doesn't want to get rid of any employees. They do a great job. But his technical people are spending all their time operating machines, taking parts out, boxing things up, separating runners. He's having all his good people spend his time on jobs that aren't helping the company very much, but have to.
Right.
And so now he's got a couple of robots. He's really sold on it because he's seen that when we put a robot on to pick the sprues and pick up parts and put them in their boxes, we have a lot of family tools. We have robots that separate all those parts into the correct box so that now his people just have to close up the box and send it out and can spend their time processing, taking care of the machines, learning more about the mold making side to really benefit his business and build up his operation where he can't just go out and say, oh, let's hire 5 more people. He can't find them.
Right. It's a major issue. And like you said, some of those jobs, picking parts, things like that, I've been through plenty of plastic injection facilities, and I just look at it and I'm like, man, I could not do that all day. And there's some people that like it. They like to tune out and do that and pick and place and do all that. I couldn't do it. I feel bad for all those people. And they, like I said, they may love it. They would probably hate my job. But everybody has their own little niche of what they want to do. But that's the perfect application for robots and automation.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, remember when I first started in molding and was learning, one night the technician who was teaching me was busy. He had a lot of mold changes to do and didn't have time to take me around with him to all of them. And so he sat me down at the press to clip runners.
Yep.
And that, first hour and a half, it was peaceful. I didn't have to worry about anything. The clip job was easy. But at the end of that 12-hour shift, I never wanted to clip another runner.
Yeah. At the end of that 12-hour shift, you thought, how did I spend 3 days here? Because the time just stops for me, the time just stops when I'm doing that same thing over and over again. Your mind wanders, and before you know it, you feel like it's 18 hours and it's been, 30 minutes.
Exactly. It just drags on. And I think you're right. There's people who really do excel at that kind of work. But I think for the most part, people really don't. Even people who like that listen to podcasts the whole time, or they are watching a movie on their phone or something. Their brain's really not loving the clipping of runners. They just put it on.
Well, I'm guessing nobody grows up saying, when I get to that stage of my life, I want to clip runners. I want to pick up parts and put them in a box. I don't think that's anybody's dream. I could be wrong, but the automation side of things gives people an opportunity to do more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it really opens up the mental interestingness of the job, right? When you're starting to look and say, well, how am I going to do this? Right. How are we going to clip the runners on this? How are we going to set this up so that it's efficient?
So for you, right, you're in a weird spot because you create automation so people can be more efficient, more effective, to kind of eliminate the disparity of talent. How are you finding talent for your business so you can start implementing these things for other people?
That's a great question. So I've been lucky enough. I've worked with the youth through our church for a long time. And I've gotten to know a lot of really smart young people, really talented young people. And so I actually pull from that pool of youth in my neighborhood, and I'll bring them in for an internship for a little while, have them do some SolidWorks stuff, have them do some assembling of the end of arms, just kind of a smattering of everything we do. And then from that point, I'll pick out the ones who really loved it, the ones who seemed to cotton on really quick. And those are the people we bring on for our apprenticeships. People who are totally unskilled, uneducated in this area, and then we'll sponsor them to go to the technical college.
Yep.
Send them through the automation program at the technical college and have them come and work part-time with us till they finish that program.
And that's such a good way to do it, because you already know the core foundations of these young people, right? You know who they are. You know where their values are, where their moral standards are. You know if they gel with you and what you're going to be doing in your business. And those are the things that are honestly most important when it comes to finding talent to join your team.
Yeah, those are really the critical things. And I love sending my people off somewhere else.
Right.
Because you get to know these people and you find out what their skills are, and you see, hey, you know what, this may not be your favorite thing. I can tell that this isn't your favorite thing, but I know company A, B, and C over here that this is something you would love.
Right.
And I love to see people succeed. We love to have employees. We love to have good people at our company, but I really love to see youth succeed.
And if you bring them along right, you are actually a mentor. You're a friend to these people. You're not just looking at them as an employee. You're building a relationship with Joe or whoever it is, right? And so you're teaching him, you're growing him, you're working together. If he decides at any point, I want to go try something else, and I'm going to go to company XYZ, he's going to go there and find a need for automation. And when that happens, if you did your job correctly and you help to grow him and nurture him and find all those things and build those qualities and characteristics, you're going to be the first person he calls.
Exactly. And Tony, we talk about things like, I see all the time on LinkedIn, how do you keep employees? There's a million posts on LinkedIn about what can we possibly do to keep employees. And that's always kind of a funny concept to me. And maybe it's focused more at corporations than small businesses. But the way I keep employees is by looking out for what is the best for my employee.
You're right.
If that's my goal, if I'm really looking at how can I, through the business, make my employee's life better,
right,
grow them as an individual, we don't have a problem with retention. That's not something that we ever fight with, because if you want to go to another company, I'm going to help you, because that's going to be better for you. It's going to be better for you. And if you don't feel like you're making enough money, we're going to talk through what options you have to become more valuable to the company. Hey,
sure,
if you want to step up and start doing all of our panel building and get certified, that's worth an extra $10 to me an hour. I'll give you the raise. Here's how you get there.
Right. Right. And it all stems from that line of communication too. I mean, that's part of being in that leadership role, is knowing who you're dealing with, knowing each individual team member, knowing them and what's kind of important to them. Some people want more money, some people want time off, some people want flexibility. It's never just one thing. And just having those conversations with people and saying, listen, sometimes this is just not the right job for you, and that's okay. There's no hard feelings. If I did something wrong, tell me, so I can be better for the rest of the team here. We've got 50 employees. If one person leaves because I'm a jackass, I kind of want to know so that I can make some self-corrections and eliminate the possibility of that happening down the line. Right.
And if those suggestions come from somebody that you trust, because you've already seen the way they treat you, that they're out for your best interest.
Right.
That's different than from somebody who's always looking out for themselves, saying, hey, you're doing a garbage job, you got to kick it up a notch.
Right.
That's hard to swallow for me. I'm going to say, well, you don't even know what I'm doing. You're only worried about yourself.
Yeah. And it's hard not to get defensive in those situations, but in the head role, right, where you're at, there's a lot of times people don't see what you do. They don't know the inner workings of what's happening in your space, in your life, in your workflow, and what that looks like. They only see what they see from the periphery, right?
Right.
And so it's being able to have that relationship with everybody on your team where they know that you have their best interest in heart. And what are you doing? Are you going that extra mile and asking people how they're doing and caring? I think those are the things that keep people sticking around in a business. It's not, we installed a pool table so people can play pool at lunch. Great. You treat people terribly the rest of the time, but you bought an entertainment system. Awesome.
Right.
Good for you.
You can flip that around. If the boss is out there playing with pool with you at lunchtime and knows you and can rib you, hey, that was a bad shot there, I know you better than that. That's the kind of environment we see those good companies that do it right.
Right.
And we try and pick, a pool table, that must be what it is. It's not about which thing you have. It's not about, did you do a pizza? Pizza party's great. But if that's all you're doing, it's an insincere gesture. And when somebody cares about you and when they don't.
Yeah, you can have, to your point, with all those things, right? If you buy the pool table and you're the boss and you don't go play with people because you think you're too good for it, or you get frustrated when you're watching people play, or you have a pizza party and the whistle blows at 12:30 and people are still eating some food and you get all over their butts about it, you've just defeated the purpose of what you were trying to do.
Exactly.
So it's building the relationship and having a relationship with people, and it's a give and take. It's a trust situation. I mean, I think the magic formula to retention is just, like you said earlier, caring about the people that you have working for you and with you.
Right, because then they're not going to want to leave. They're going to see that they've got a good thing there and really going to be loyal to you in return.
Yeah, and that's something that automation will never replace.
Right. Tony, I did want to talk a little bit about, so we talked earlier about kind of the intimidation of getting into doing automation.
Yeah.
I think there's an intimidation to bringing automation into a facility.
I would agree.
As a smaller custom molder or as a smaller shop that's not a medical or an automotive shop, I think there's just a fear of like, how are we going to keep this up?
Yep.
Who's going to do, how are we going to figure out how to use these things? Is that something you've seen in the industry?
We have, there's plenty of applications that we see frequently. And just like you said, how are we going to bring this in? Now so for instance, we have the KUKA robot, and we have a UR robot laser welder. And we'll go into facilities and we'll talk about it. And the biggest hang up is people go, I can't run a robot. I don't have anybody that can do that. And then we have to tell them, well, it's actually not as complicated as you think. KUKA is very advanced. UR is very advanced. They understand the limitations of people and the lack of education or knowledge in what it is for people starting out. And they've made it a very easy system to do. But you're absolutely right. There is a fear and a hesitation because people don't know what to expect or what they're going to be getting themselves into or if they can even handle it.
Right. And I think some of that kind of stems from they may have had a bad experience bringing a robot in before. Depending on who your salesperson is, which robot you're bringing in, sometimes it can just be they dropped it on the dock and what do we do with this?
Right.
But there's something I learned about it. It's called an integrator.
Yep.
And these people, we work as an integrator often. And what they do is they are there to mesh this technology with your existing system, to bring something new and figure out how it fits into what you're currently doing. And then to help you figure out how is that going to go on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And whether it's building this packaging machine we're doing, if I were to ask the operator to program the robot, they're going to struggle.
Sure.
Right. But we built a machine interface for them that has all of the commands they need to operate the machine. It tells them what's going wrong. If something's happened, it has error messages, just like a molding machine comes up and tells you, hey, over tonnage, we clamped up on something. Okay. The complexities of an injection molding machine have been simplified to where people can use it.
Yep.
The manufacturers and their integrators. We do the same thing with the robots and automation that go along with this equipment in making it so that it is an easier thing to do, that there's less of a learning curve.
And that's important. I mean, because that right there is 90% of the hurdle for people. You know, we've gone into facilities and somebody will say, no, I'm not interested in buying another robot that won't work. We've got one over there and it's collecting dust. You can see it. Can we use that one? And it's like some 10-year-old robot that has never worked. It's like, you know, you find R2-D2 all half put together and you're like, come on. No, why didn't you learn how to use that in the first place? You know, it's like it was one person's pet project to bring in an automation system. And maybe that person got fired or nobody ever had 100% buy-in. And now the robot just sits there and it's tainted their decision for life.
Right. Either that or the company calls up a distributor and says, hey, we want a robot. The distributor says, I love to sell robots. We'll get you one right now.
Yeah.
And that's where working with an integrator is so important, because the integrator is going to say, okay, I'm going to learn what you need done first. Yes. Once I understand your application, then we'll spec out which robot do you need, what's going to be best for your application. I walked into a facility the other day where all the injection molding machines had the same 6-axis robot bolted to the side of it. And I asked them,
I'm going to guess that wasn't the right idea.
No, it you know, there's things you can use it for. I've seen molding machines where we spec the 6-axis robot, but I asked the guy why he had decided on a 6-axis. Why did he do that? And he says, oh, you know, in my last assembly job, we used this same robot and it worked out great. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, if you don't understand what it's going on to, injection molding is a much different animal to assembly. And most of the time you want one of these injection molding Artesian robot made by, you know, CPRO or Whitman Battenfeld or Yushin. These are designed for an injection molding machine for a reason, because these guys have a long background. And so really, if you're hesitant about getting into automation, my real first suggestion is get in contact with somebody who does this all the time. And it's going to make it so much easier. The path for how you get there, what you need, and talk with you about, well, how does your operation work? What's the flow of your material? Where does it go after this? And really to optimize putting in automation and make it a joy instead of something that you just threw a bunch of money away on and doesn't work.
Yeah, because nobody wants that. We talked about that earlier. It's hard enough to make money, much less just throw it away. So I'm guessing people could contact you, that you're not too busy, if they needed help with automation and integration.
Yeah, definitely. We love to talk to people and hash out the application. And sometimes we come back and say, automation isn't right for this. This is a process that you're really handling kind of the best you can at the moment.
And so how does somebody contact you?
So you can actually call me. Our number's up on my personal cell number's on the website. I always answer my phone. Feel free to call. You can send me an email, send me a LinkedIn message. Pretty much anywhere I'll answer you.
And you got a YouTube channel too, I see.
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel. That's kind of a compilation of a lot of our different end of arms that we're allowed to show. We have some.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's under NDA, but
I hate those NDAs. They're just not fun. I mean, we'll sign them and we'll obey by them and we'll do it. But man, it's so hard to market what you do when nobody lets you show off what you do.
Exactly. And those are always the coolest projects too. The coolest projects always have 3-layer NDAs and you can't show pictures or talk about it or anything, which is unfortunate. But we do have some cool stuff up on the YouTube channel, especially for the injection molders out there. You can go and check out and see what our end of arms look like. What does a 3D printed end of arm actually mean? We have some cool videos that talk all about that on there.
Well, I kind of feel like I need to make a trip to Utah for a number of reasons. One, I've never been there and I really want to go to Utah. Two, I think that there's probably some applications where you can help us out in some of our laser welding, cutting, engraving applications, especially when we have customers that are looking for more automation in production parts, because we don't know a ton of people in that field. It's fairly new to us, and what I like to do, it's the manufacturing alliance, right? It's everybody coming together for a common good to get something done. I love trying to build relationships and find more people that we can work with through this platform, through the trade shows and things like that. So, and the third one is, it sounds like some plastic injection molders in Utah that we might be able to help as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. Utah is a pretty big hotbed for medical molding.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I really found out how many molders we have in Utah, especially some of the smaller houses that are doing medical products. We really have a roaring injection molding industry out here, and kind of a lack of support because everybody's in the East. All the big mold builders, all the support things. When you go to NPE or PT Expo,
yeah,
this is really Midwest/East Coast. You get very little of the West participation. I've been talking to people about who's going to PT Expo and what are you excited to see, and a lot of response from the West is, what's it called?
Yeah, exactly.
And these are these big molders. These aren't people outside the loop of the industry. It's just kind of segregated a little bit between East and West.
Well, a lot of what I found is the West Coast is its own West Coast, right? Like California, I feel like kind of sticks to themselves a little bit. California's pretty busy in a lot of aspects and regards, and they don't make it that far out to the Midwest and things like that. I mean, Rick Finney from MR Mold, he usually comes out. I see him all the time. But they also have the MDM West show that they kind of stick to a little bit. But I'm looking forward to PT Expo and seeing everybody. But so what is the good time to come visit Utah? Because I'm going to try and get it in a calendar, and I'd love to see your facility and see what you guys do firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. Best time to come to Utah is going to be like late April, early May.
Okay.
You start getting to the end of the May, we get a little bit too hot.
Yep.
But if you come a little bit earlier, it's too cold. So we have a small, narrow window of beautiful spring weather.
All right. So end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah.
All right.
Or a little bit later in the year, fall time. So probably end of August to, mid to late October, you get another nice spell of beautiful weather. Otherwise, we're either freezing hot or burning hot or freezing cold.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that about Utah. I've always wanted to go visit. I've just never had the opportunity to. Richard Evans is watching with us. Richard Evans from RPS. I love my cup. I use it every show. He's watching. He says he can't wait to see everybody at PT Expo. Richard's probably another one of those guys that I don't know if you know him, but he's a freelance mold designer, and he knows so many people. And he's not only that, he's a good dude.
I actually met Richard at Amerimold last year for the first time. Great guy, and we're excited to see him again at PT Expo.
So you guys will be there. Do you have a booth?
Yeah, we do have a booth. We're at booth 924.
Awesome. So, what are you most looking forward to about PT Expo? We'll give Gardner and PT Expo some time here. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm really excited to see everybody in the industry, and especially since Chicago just lifted all their COVID restrictions.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, I'm excited for what, to me, I think is going to be the first normal feeling trade show since 2019.
Yeah. Yep. And my hope is that people are ready to jump and go and do these things. Amerimold was good for a kickstart to get people back out and used to trade shows again. I mean, it was so good to be able to shake hands and look people eye to eye and not do things over technology. I mean, this is fine, but it's not the same thing as actually building those relationships with people. And I'm looking forward to PT Expo because it's supposed to be even more people that are going to be there, more industries, more technologies, more opportunity to talk to people. So if you're interested in going to PT Expo, it is the end of March. It is a 28th, 29th, 30th. Is that what it is? Or is it 29th, 30th, 31st?
I think it's, no, let's see. I gotta look at
Yeah.
my calendar.
One of us should know that, I guess.
Yeah, it is the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
29th, 30th, 31st. See, for me, it doesn't matter because the 26th, 27th, 28th will probably be set up. So all those days just kind of run together for me, and that's fine. But it is at the Donald E. Stevenson Convention Center. There's a Gibson's across the street if you like steak. There's so much good food there. We're already planning. I think it'll probably be that Tuesday night. We're going to plan to get together with a bunch of people, go have dinner, find ourselves at the karaoke bar, and stay there till probably it closes and they kick us out. Because why not?
That sounds like a great time, Tony.
That's the highlight of those shows. I mean, all the stuff after the show closes.
Oh yeah, that's when you really get time to talk things over and make new friends and do your networking. I'm excited for this show too because I don't know about you. I'm kind of the young guy in the molding industry. Always, I hear all the old guys talk about NPE, 1980 was fantastic. That was just all these. If you'd only been in the industry at that time, and I'm kind of excited for my own old timer story where I can be like, yeah, the first PT Expo, you guys should have been. There. It was amazing.
The kickoff event, right? The kickoff PT Expo, the first one ever. This one was the catalyst.
Exactly.
I think I would have loved to be at the first NPE because now to me, NPE is just way too big. There's too much. And, there's NPE, there's going to be 100 automation guys there, right? Just if there's going to be one, there's going to be 100. And it's impossible to build a rapport and a relationship with somebody after the show because, company XYZ is going to talk to 100 different people. They're not going to remember if you call them later and say, hey, we had this great conversation about X, because they're not taking notes. It's too loud. It's too everything. It's too much. And I like people, but it's too much. I like Amerimold, and I think I'm going to really like PT Expo because it's a much more intimate environment where you and I can talk and we're both going to remember what happened. And we can share notes from that afterwards. We can go have something to eat during the show, or you can come back the next day and we can keep rehashing the situation that we were in. Some of those shows are just too monstrous, and you're just going from place to place to place to place to place without even paying attention to what you're seeing, and it could be a little bit obnoxious.
Yeah, and I wanted to reiterate kind of what Rich said on your last episode of the podcast is if you're coming to PT Expo, which you should, bring your challenge with you.
Yes.
Bring what you're struggling with you, because I think you nailed it. PT Expo, I think the point of this is we want to sit down and talk about a real project, what you're doing, how we can help you. We're not just there showing off all the cool stuff that we've come up with in the last year. We're really there to connect and find people who need automation, who need to get into this and have a pain point that they're struggling with. And we'd love to talk through your application and kind of share details on that, not just a general, yeah, we can do that. We'll call you after the show.
Right. Because all that stuff, it matters, right? Like, of course you can make it. You can make a custom application for anything. That's not a big deal.
Right.
But if somebody knows exactly what it is they're looking for, and you can start the diagram process. You can start to say, okay, let's talk about this application. We've got this, we've done this in the past, but what do you specifically need, and how can we help you get there?
Exactly. I think this will be a great show of conversations like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we are closing in on our time. I mean, I love doing the show because I feel like there's no dead space. It's just like, you find somebody that's passionate about what they do, and you can just keep talking about it for hours and hours and hours and hours. And, some people might find it interesting, some people might not, and they can leave, but I enjoyed the conversation. So, I think that's good. Usually, always, we always end our show with a prayer. And so if you have any prayer requests or things like that, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll mention them. Richard, do you have any prayer requests before we get out of here?
Yeah, actually, Tony, I was going to ask you to remember the people in Ukraine, and my nephew just got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So if you wouldn't mind praying for him, I'd appreciate that.
Of course. We've got a friend of ours also with type 1 diabetes. It's an interesting thing. They've had to navigate a lot of different things, a lot of different challenges, but not much has changed, right? I think it's one of those things where you trust God that He knows what He's doing with what's going on, and that He's going to give you the grace that you need and the tools that you need to be able to overcome those things.
Yep, and He does. He takes care of us, doesn't He?
Yeah, so much. So much. So I'm gonna pray for us, and if you have something, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll pay attention to it. But in the meantime, Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to talk with Richard. Thank you for the time. Thank you for allowing me to meet somebody that is as passionate and caring about his team and the community and the space as he is, that wants to make a difference, that wants to help, that wants to encourage and bring people along with him on that journey. We just pray blessing over all the people that are watching, that are listening, that will hear this in the future. We pray for the people in Ukraine and their situation. And we just know and we understand that you are in control of even that. And all of this will be worked out together for the good of those that believe, and ultimately your glory. And we ask for prayers for his nephew with diabetes and all the people who are suffering from, that ailment or other diseases or other viruses or other things that you would give them healing. And if not healing, that your will would be done, and you would give us the strength and the confidence to continue to trust you. And we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Tony. It was great chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. It was really good. I'm glad that we connected on LinkedIn, and we were able to make this happen right away. I think you guys are on the right track. I think it's an awesome thing. I really do see potential for us to be able to work together in some capacity down the line. Hopefully we keep getting production welding and engraving projects, and now I've got a good resource and a direct person that I can talk to. So, for people that wonder, right, like what's the point of LinkedIn, right? Is it just reading people's stuff? No. The point of LinkedIn is going on there and connecting with other people that you think you might be able to work with down the line. You don't have to know them yet, but you do have to reach out. You do have to be a person that's going to tap someone and send a message and say, hey, what's going on? Can we work together in some capacity? Not just strictly sales. Don't just try and sell yourself, but it's got to be a symbiotic relationship there.
Yeah, and I found a ton of those great relationships through LinkedIn, and through connecting with one person, you find another, right?
Yep.
You connect with Tony and you find Kate, or you connect with Kate and you find somebody else that's an amazing industry rock star, just amazing to work with. Yep.
And what I found is, everybody wants to help everybody. Very few people are in this for themselves. American manufacturing is strong. It's going to get stronger. We all know and understand the importance of working together to grow this industry. So, Richard, thank you for all that you're doing in this space. I think it's awesome, and I can't wait to work with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
All right, everybody. That's another show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating, for your comments, questions. There weren't a lot of them, but I'm guessing you were just too enthralled with all the conversation. You couldn't even think of anything because we covered it all. That's what I'm going to go with. But if you would like to be part of the show, it's really easy. You can email us, me at tony@alliancelasersales.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on any of those platforms. You can reach out to our Alliance platforms as well. We want to hear your stories. We want to engage with you. We want to talk with you. And we want to just keep this rolling. And if you have any comments of ways that we can make the show better, tell me. I want to try and do that. Just don't say stop, because I'm not going to, because I enjoy it. And if you liked it, if you found value, please share the show with somebody else. Put it on your LinkedIn page. It's really easy to do. You just hit the little, paper airplane thing or the share, and you can push that out further. So I appreciate you all listening, watching, and being part of the Manufacturing Alliance. And on behalf of myself, Alliance Specialties in Laser Sales, and Mr. Richard Savage, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care, and God bless.